Racing. Let's turn to our starting grid, powered like the Champ Cars by Ford. On the front row, Paul Tracy had his provisional pole taken away on Friday for blocking. He seized it with a vengeance on Saturday and was the quickest man in the morning warm-up, going for his second victory in a row on home soil. He'll start next to the man who was the beneficiary of the official's decision on Friday. He is 15 points behind in the championship. He is Bruno Junqueira. On row 2, fourth quick in the warm-up, equaling the best qualifying performance in the team that is now Bourdais competition's history. Roberto Moreno, the 01 winner here in Vancouver, starts next to Michel Jourdain for Team Rahal, who went from 18th to 4th here last year, so he knows how to get the job done. On row 3, Sebastian Bourdais, leader for the Rookie of the Year. He's been fighting a touch of flu all weekend. He was 5th quick in the morning warm-up. He'll start next to the second fastest man in the warm-up, Patrick Carpentier, who was 2nd here in Vancouver back in 1999. On row 4, Alex Tagliani sat on pole here in Vancouver back in 2001. He'll start next to Darren Manning, who is continuing a string of great performances for Walker Racing. And as you see, Jeff Boss in his Dale Coyne Racing Lola managed to get into the wall during the warm-up. Let's get down to Derek Daly in the pit lane.
Well, to save the embarrassment of falling over the tires like I did last week, I figured I'd just go ahead and start down here. Paul Tracy has vowed to run every lap flat out just like he did in Toronto. He was the fastest man this morning in the warm-up on full tanks. If Bruno Junqueira is to beat him, he has at least to start by doing the same thing.
Good to see you keeping safe there, Double D. Moving to row 5, Oriol Servia, 3rd quick in the warm-up this morning, will start next to rookie Mario Haberfeld in his first visit to the streets of Vancouver. On row 6, Tiago Monteiro crashed in Friday qualifying, but he's been quick all weekend. He'll start next to last year's Rookie of the Year, Mario Dominguez. On row 7, Captain America Jimmy Vasser and the rest of the American Spirit Team Johansson crew have been struggling this weekend. So has Adrian Fernandez. Problems with the differential all weekend in the Tecate car. On row 8, Mad Max Pappas will start alongside Jimmy Vasser's teammate Ryan Hunter-Reay, also having a tough first visit to Vancouver. On row 9, Walter Salas of Brazil finished 26th in his only previous race here back in 1997. He'll be starting next to Mexican rookie Rodolfo Levine, and scheduled to start on row 10, former Indy Lights alumnus Jeff Boss. But as you saw, his car appeared to be fairly comprehensively damaged in that contact with the wall on the parade lap. To Calvin Fish.
Bob, as the title contenders line up for today's race, many people believe that this is crunch time in the championship. The guys need to make their moves today. But you couldn't pick a harder racetrack to do that on than the one here in Vancouver. Over the last 6 years, the attrition rate from contact alone is 8.5 cars per race. It gives a whole new meaning to the word crunch, Bob.
Thanks very much, Calvin. And as you've seen, attrition has already taken place. Jeff Boss's car has been towed into one of the safe havens. He is out of the race before it begins. Let's take a look at the track, Scott Pruitt.
This is a very difficult track. You got to put a lot into qualifying. Being that said, if you are going to make a move, it'll be right here down in turn 1. If you've got a good head of steam, you can get the job done. And as well, turn 6. Difficult areas to try and make that pass, but those are the only areas. 7, 8, 9, 10, pretty straightforward. And then right through here, this is a difficult part of the track. You got to get over the curves and over the curves aggressively. If you don't, you'll end up like Patrick Carpentier yesterday, unfortunately, into the fence.
It is one of the bumpiest tracks we visit all year long. Checking our Bridgestone keys to the race, 100 laps scheduled. Ambient temperature right about 80 degrees, a lot hotter on the racetrack though. Our mandatory pit interval, 30 laps, a 3-stop race. You may go no farther than 30 laps without pitting and changing all 4 tires. But it is a fairly wide pit window. It opens as early as lap 10, and you can still get to the end of a 100-lap race with 3 stops. And now Walter Salas in the other coin car is in the wall, coming off turn 11, straight in.
Those are the curbs that Scott talked about, that you bomb straight over. That's really curious. And obviously he hit the left curb with his left rear end with the cold tire temps, got a little bit of rotation. Obviously very embarrassing for these guys to be crashing on the pace laps, but that's an insight into how cold the tires are and how little grip there is until they get up to temperature.
That is the most bizarre thing for 2 teammates to knock themselves out of the race on the parade lap. Now let's get back to the pit windows. As I mentioned, the early window will open on lap 10. You can still do it on 3 stops from there, but we expect on this very difficult track to pass that most of the leaders will go right to lap 30 before coming in. Now, as a result of those two accidents on the parade laps, it will be a yellow flag start. So we will begin counting laps, and the clock will run while they remove the Dale Coyne cars. There is the man himself with Calvin.
Dale, it's hard to believe to see both your cars out before the green flag. Any idea what happened to the boys out there?
I think Jeff, he was on cold tires. It was his very first go around. He said he just lit him up on the cold tires and sliding and broke a left rear. And looks like Walter, he probably tried to slide it through here to warm him up. As the guys try to slide, as the tires are cold, to get some temperature in him, and I think just clipped the curb too hard and snapped him into a wall. So
you had an oil leak on that car this morning in the warm-up. Could that have contributed to the accident?
That was fixed. That was a line to the turbo. That one was all right. But you know, to have both of them out before the start is you think they're both number 13 or something here. So.
Oh, man. Dale Coyne is a racing survivor and one of the most unperturbable, if that's a good word for it, men you will ever meet. There's another look at what happened to Walter Salas.
It looks like he might have gotten the rears locked as he was turning in before he hit the curb. It looks like the car was starting to rotate slightly before he hit the curb.
Checking our onboard cameras, you are on board with the man at the eye of the storm, Paul Tracy, leading by 15 points in the championship. Spreading out to the six-pack, you see Adrian Fernandez's machine starting 14th on a track with some very bad memories. A huge crash last year that led to a broken pelvis and other injuries. This is Mario Dominguez, also starting deep in the pack for the Bourdais competition team. Alex Tagliani starting in the number 7 spot. How about Patrick Carpentier, whose crash in the closing minutes of Saturday's second round of qualifying helped lock in his teammate's pole position. It cost him his fastest lap, however. Here is Sebastian Bourdais starting 5th, just behind Roberto Moreno, the 2001 winner of this race. Making their way around the chicane near the geodesic dome of Science World, the banks of False Creek here in Vancouver. And there's a new view out the back of Paul Tracy's Players Forsyth Lola Ford.
You know, Tommy, if I'm Junqueira starting on the outside, I'd be wanting to take a bold move into one. Jump the start, something to make something happen.
Oh, but just in his comments and Jourdain's comments, the effect of Paul Tracy's dominance at Toronto is showing up in little ways. Bruno was talking a little bit of smack, saying, I'm going to apply big pressure to Paul, make him crack, singing a totally different tune here. There's been a lot of controversy, but that effect, the championship was really, really, really close. Paul came out and had one of the most dominant performances I can remember, and it's making these guys say, hey, you know, if we can just get on the podium. They're not sounding very confident.
Lap 1 is now complete after one of the more interesting starts you will ever see. Well, in fact, we haven't started. It brings up an historical note. No driver has ever won wire-to-wire in consecutive races. We'll be back. Times in 13 years to accommodate local construction. It happens all the time with street circuits. We are still under a yellow flag, but we are told next time by they will get the green. Look at Patrick Carpentier.
This is a tough setup. I mean, turn 1, 2, and 3 here, very tight. And for these guys, I wouldn't be surprised you see a little bit of, or maybe a lot of bit of contact going through that 1, 2, 3, 4 complex.
Now, when we went to break, you were talking about how you'd like to force something to happen. The guys haven't exhibited a lot of confidence, as I said. What would you do, Scott?
If I was Bruno, I'd jump start. I'd come around a turn and just jump it. You know, if I happen to get a green, great. If I get it yellowed off, well, so what? Maybe you can even shake things up a little bit with Paul. You got to go into this being the aggressor. You got to challenge him, not back down and say, well, you know, a podium would be good enough for me. You ain't going to get it done.
Safety car crew of Gail Truis and Linda Popes pull off into the pit lane.
Single file through 12 and coming at you, starter. Green flag, green flag.
He heard you.
There he did it.
That's Paul Layton from race control. J.D. Wilbur turns him loose, and Bruno Junqueira is all over it. Oh, Oriol Servia gets hip checked aside. Adrian Fernandez, too.
And Moreno's in the fence.
Oh, Roberto Moreno in the tire wall. Derek Daly, what do you know?
Roberto Moreno was an innocent bystander and got drop kicked by our young French rookie, Sebastien Bourdais.
Oh, my, look at Bruno Junqueira. With Paul Tracy close behind, ripping away from the field. Looks like Bourdais running third. Then Patrick Carpentier. Oh, Thiago Monteiro and Mario Dominguez have spun. That means both members of the Bourdais competition team are having problems. And the Vistion car. There's Oriol Servia going slowly.
We talked about that. I mean, that complex 1, 2, and 3 is difficult to get through. Sounds like Oriole talking to Jim McGee.
Right wishbone is broken.
Right rear wishbone.
Yep.
Let's take another look at the start.
Bruno does exactly what you're talking about. Makes that jump. He's going after it right now. Ahead of Paul.
And Paul's not happy about it, but the starter.
Here's Moreno in the middle.
Look right there.
Oh, yeah.
Right up the inside.
Left front to right rear. Bourdais got into Moreno. Didn't see what happened to Servia, though. On board with Bourdais. Moreno up ahead.
A little slow getting off the start.
Oh, I think he actually clipped the end of the pit wall with his right front.
Sebastian was making the move up the inside, and this complex is real tight.
Moving on later in the lap. Alex Tagliani going down the inside of Michel Jourdain. At the back of your screen, that's Dominguez and Thiago Monteiro. Let's go back to the start from overhead now. Look at Bruno Junqueira, shot from a gun.
Up the inside.
Moreno incident. I still didn't see what happened to Oriole Servia.
I think he got together with Monteiro.
There goes Moreno.
That's unfortunate for Moreno, but that's just one of those racing incidents.
This is Dominguez on board. That's Monteiro up ahead. Monteiro and Servia wheel to wheel.
Oh, there you go. We didn't see it, but that's exactly what happened. Actually, he got together with Servia.
There's Moreno walking away. Looks like Servia hooked Monteiro with his right rear.
He was drifting out. Didn't leave enough room for Monteiro on the outside.
Left front is in the air. That means the right rear is down.
What was the average number of cars out by contact? 8.5. We had 2 before the green. We had 6 already.
Oh my gosh.
But definitely looks like we're going to get the over-under. Now, talking about the start, now the starts this year have come under a good bit of criticism. But once the green is out, the rule is such that either car can lead. So there's an intention that they would like them to at least be even. But if you time it perfectly, the way these cars accelerate, Bruno got a great jump. Paul's complaining on the radio, asking for a protest, but I don't see really what they could do. If the starter doesn't throw the green, you can say, hey Bruno, we'd like to see a little bit closer. But if the starter throws the green, you don't have much to stand on.
Roberto Moreno started from the 3rd position. He was briefly on provisional pole in qualifying, having a great weekend. In their 18-year history, beginning as Bettenhausen Motorsports back in the mid-'80s, the Bourdais competition team has never had a pole position. They came so close. Now he's out of the race. Bourdais makes a stop.
I think you're right, Bob, about Bourdais clipping the inside of the pit wall, too.
There's Servia talking with Jim McGee. Calvin Fish is there.
Oriole, tough to see you out so early. What happened from your perspective?
Well, at the first corner, I think somebody crashed and they all break a lot, and I almost got together with Manning. I had to go on the outside, and Aberfeld passed me, and then Monteiro tried to pass me, but I had the inside on the next one, and he just kept his. I thought he was gone, and he kept his wheel right front in front of my left, and I just went up in the air and broke the wishbone. A shame, because the car was really great in the warm-up, and we were hoping that the Vistion car had a chance to be up in the podium today.
Well, his consecutive runs of finishes in the top 6 is over right now. Let's get down to Derek Daly.
Bourdais has now dropped to the back of the field. He made a precautionary pit stop just to make sure all was okay. There is a very large black tire mark on his left front wing, but there is no serious damage for Bourdais.
Set on that set. Pit again. We have another set of tires ready for you. We'll top you off and get you back out, okay? Why did we change the tires then?
Sounds like Bourdais with some questions for his crew. Meanwhile, Mario Dominguez has refired. He's got a flat right front. He'll have a pit stop in his future. We'll take a break and be back for the restart here in Vancouver.
Tire management than they used to, and we believe it's largely due to the fact that they don't have traction control. But again, it's something that we're adapting to. We're going to revise the tires again and try and stay ahead of the curve.
Thank you, Al.
And thank you, Derek. We are back underway. working their way onto Pacific Boulevard in downtown Vancouver. Getting onto the fastest part of the racetrack. Bumpy, blind, 160-mile-an-hour turn 5, then up to about 183 miles an hour before they break for turn 6.
I'm impressed with Tagliani going from 7th up to 4th. Another great start. Very bold at Toronto. Continues that here. Carving his way right up through the field. Some big, bold moves from Alex.
A couple of rookies in a great battle there. Darren Manning and Mario Haberfeld in 6th and 7th. Bruno Junqueira leads Paul Tracy after a blinder of a start from the Brazilian.
And it's not too different from the start at Toronto. I couldn't believe the flagger gave the green at Toronto. It benefited Paul Tracy here, benefited Bruno Junqueira big time here. Now, Paul's been screaming over the radio. Now, when I was driving, I used to do the exact same thing. I didn't feel like I put it out of my mind. I was focusing on what I had to do. I would scream on the radio to keep the team revved up to work every angle they could in the pits. And the team's telling Paul to calm down. If he's just keeping his team stirred up to fight the fight for him, that's one thing. But if it changes his decision making, he says, you know what, I'm mad at Bruno now. I need to try to apply some pressure. He shouldn't have done that. It'd be interesting to see if he tries to force a move before the first pit stop.
Bob, we heard Sebastian Bourdais question why he needed more new tires during that caution period. Of course, to increase his pit window, he needs to change all 4 tires. So Craig Hampson and the boys are going to try and work some strategy, get Sebastian back to the front. They've done it before. Can they do it here at Vancouver?
Mindful of the fact you need to change all 4 tires to tires that were not on the car when you came in.
Yeah, that's something that with Sebastian, we saw it early in the year where he didn't fully understand how these races unfold. That's a very smart move by the Newman Haas guys. They're going to be able to go 5 or 6 laps longer. They stopped once and changed them. When they saw that yellow was going to go 1 lap further, they did it again. Sebastian was saying, why do we have to change tires again? And exactly for the reason that Calvin explained.
On board with Paul Tracy. Now we want to take you back to the start once again. Take a look at what Bruno Junqueira did. Now watch the jump he gets off the corner. He goes right up the left side of Tracy. And officials were looking at it. They've decided it was a legal start. Much like the one at Long Beach in round 3 of the season when Paul Tracy just went flying by pole sitter Michel Jourdain.
Same thing a year ago at Milwaukee. Remember Adrian Fernandez complaining a lot about that? A lot of contact on the bridge. Unfortunately caught Serbia.
Serbia's spotter must not have told him, clear high.
There's a look at the cars out of the race. I think the British have a phrase for that. That first lap was a dog's breakfast. Now the cars who pitted were Bourdais, Fernandez, Levine, and Dominguez. But the early pit window does not yet open. 1 more lap, and the early window is open for a 3-stop strategy.
Aggressive over those curves you were talking about earlier, onto the front straight. Now Paul looks like he's got a good car, but this is a very difficult track to pass on.
Very difficult. I'll tell you what, this is about the most pressure I can remember someone applying actually in the races on a tight street circuit. A lot of the times guys settle into the rhythm and they force the pace around the pit stop. But this is the closest I can remember someone running to Bruno. You know, Bruno made those comments before Toronto that he was going to try to force Paul Tracy into a mistake. Thought he cracked under pressure. I'm sure that's in Paul's mind, saying, hey, shoes on the other foot, see how you deal with it.
Calvin Fish.
Speaking to Bruno before the off, you see him locking up there a little bit earlier in his run, but he said he had a lot of understeer in the morning warm-up. Very concerned because time management is really a key here. This racetrack, as it rubbers in, gets very abrasive, and if you have an imbalance in the car, you can really work over those front tires. So Bruno's going to be careful, even though he's under pressure from Paul Tracy. Let's go down to Derek Daly.
Paul Gentilozzi watching the monitor here. You have a brave man in that car. He's got a spectacular opening laps, just like Toronto 2 weeks ago.
Well, he's got a lot to prove. You know, he knows that he can lead here. He knows he can win here if we just get a couple breaks. It's going to be tough. There's a lot of racing going on right now.
Paul, we saw your engineers looking at the inside shoulder of the left front tire after the warm-up this morning. How much concern is there about those draining, potentially, front tires?
Well, we were fortunate enough to work with the Bridgestone engineers. I mean, that draining problem is common in racing when you have a wrong setup. It certainly wasn't the tire at all. We fixed the setup. We think we fixed the problem. We'll find out first pit stop.
That's looked good so far. Thank you, Paul.
There is his man, Alex Tagliani, pole position in this race back in 2001 when Roberto Moreno went on to win from 7th on the grid. So it's possible to come from further back, but I believe 4 times this race has been won from up front.
You know, one of the, we were talking a little bit earlier, one of the guys who should have been right in the middle of that heat was Michel Jourdain. He's one of those guys who needs to be chasing down the front, and unfortunately slipped back to the 5th position.
Onto the front straightaway. Passing under the railway that brings race fans right from the heart of downtown Vancouver, Yaletown, Gastown, right to the racetrack. It's a great convenience. Fastest part of the racetrack, heading up the long stretch along Science World here in Vancouver. We'll be back in just a moment. On board with Paul Tracy, running second to Bruno Junqueira.
That's one of the areas, that's the back part of the track down in turn 6. If he's going to make it happen, we just saw he got a great run coming off the back, really putting a lot of pressure on Junkie right now.
It is really hard to stay through that fast kink. The downforce disruption from the car in front. You see Paul turning a little early in the kink, trying to offset his car, but when he crosses through the wash of Bruno, used up a lot more road on the exit. But he is applying a lot of pressure to Junqueira. Looks a lot quicker than him at this point.
Bridgestone running order across the top of your screen. 4 cars officially out of the race. Mario Dominguez and Tagliani Monteiro are back on track, but they are 2 and 3 laps down to the race leader respectively. Now we have another angle of that controversial start we want to show you. As the cars come off the turn, there's the flag stand to the left of your screen.
Now watch Bruno on the right, and watch, he goes there, he's gone. The green's not out, the green's not out, the green comes out. Now I said once the green comes out, it's an endorsed start. I want to make it clear that is an absolutely horrible job by the starter. But once the green comes out, there's not much you can do. You can't take it back. That is, you're basically endorsing the lineup at that point.
Let's find out what Paul Tracy was thinking on the radio.
Okay, Paul, between turns 3 and 4 is where they're trying to get some cars moving, so take particular attention there.
Have you guys launched a we need to launch a protest against that start.
Yep, 10-4, we're taking care of that.
Well, that is the voice of team manager Neil Mickelwright. They have requested from CART whether that was a jump start or not. They didn't receive an answer. Do you think CART are going to do them any favors this weekend after the headlines?
You know, that's a situation. You gotta. I mean, if CART is non-controversial, they don't want to get partial to anybody. I mean, Tommy's hit it right on the head. I mean, that was a pretty bogus jump that he had, and
he did exactly what he said he should do. This is not Bruno's fault. Bruno did what he should have done. If the green comes out, it's shame on the starter, and that's exactly what Bruno should be doing. But John Lopes comes on and says, we're not going to turn a blind eye to anyone. I would imagine that the people in race control are not particularly happy with the starter right about now.
That's exactly it.
Our pictures are coming to us from our host broadcaster, the Canadian company Global TV. Now we understand that officials are still reviewing the start. Because of that new angle that we just had a look at that shows both the starter stand and the cars.
It's clear it was horrible, but there's no remedy. Once you throw the green, that's why the starter has to know what he's doing, because if a guy's jump like that, you don't throw the green. I mean, once it's done, how do you undo that?
Neil Mickelwright also said the car is so good they're prepared to just wait behind Bruno to see whether they need to get track position on a short fill during their first pit stop. However, they won't make that decision until this run goes many, many more laps.
All right, thanks very much, Derek. There is Paul Tracy. I'm sure he's still in discussions with his team.
I would imagine, though, I mean, Paul's frustrated, but I imagine Paul is smiling inside because it is clear that his car is really, really good. Getting around is another story. I mean, it's really difficult. He could fall for 100 laps. They're going to have to do something on the pit stops, most likely.
In this set of circumstances, Junqueira came out as the aggressor. Why not? I mean, I don't know what there is to review. Good shot at Darren Manning.
They need to fall on their sword and say, we agree with you. It's a horrible start, and we'll fix it for next time. But I'm not sure what they can do now.
There's a look at Darren Manning, currently running in the 6th spot. 1 spot ahead of fellow rookie Mario Haberfeld. The rookie leader, Sebastian Bourdais, is 4 places behind them. Let's go to Calvin Fish.
Derek Walker, Darren's had a tremendous weekend coming here for the first time. The rain out over the bumps still seems pretty strong.
Yeah, it's running very well. You know, we've got a bit more understeer right now than we'd want, but it's a long race. We're going to try and fix it next stop.
Okay, well, they'll make a change. Certainly, looking at that pre-race show, Darren Manning needs to get some prize money so he can afford to put something in his refrigerator. But behind the stand here, we see Michael Valiente. This weekend, we have the CART Mentor program in place. 3 of the Toyota Atlantic drivers here. Jonathan Macri with Rocket Sports. We have Valiente here, and one of the other guys, Aaron Justice, down with players. They're trying to learn beyond the headset, see what they can find out. As we mentioned in the last show at Toronto, Valiente has a deal in place with Walker to try and be here for 2004, Bob.
All right, thanks very much, Calvin. Darren Manning is the first rookie since Kenny Brack back in 2000 to post 5 consecutive top 10 finishes.
We're on board with Bourdais. Now, remember, Bourdais fell back, was at the back of the pack, has worked his way back up to... I can tell you that in a second. Back to 11th, so they're having a good run. And that's difficult to do here. Vancouver's a very tough track to pass on, but he's carved his way through the field. It's like a little bit of a discussion going on down there.
Yep. And what we're being told is going to happen is officials are going to call a penalty on Bruno Junqueira for jumping the start, and they're going to ask him to allow Paul Tracy to go back by him. Let's see what unfolds.
Penalty on a starter.
Well, in the rule book, rule 6.20.1 says when the pace car is accelerated away from the field, the lead car shall maintain a steady speed as it approaches the acceleration point, which Paul did. So the key point here is, where is the acceleration point? If Bruno jumped before the acceleration point, I guess there is a remedy that they can apply, and they're asking Bruno to move over and allow Paul past.
It looked like Paul was waiting for Bruno to come alongside as they're supposed to form up 2 by 2.
Because it's so hard to get even 2 rows side by side. So I'm sure they said, we need you guys to really slow down and let at least 2 rows get by. And the acceleration point was obviously based on Paul's behavior further down the track. Bruno said he was going to carpe diem, seize the day.
Even if he gets moved in a second, he hasn't lost anything.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Bruno had to be the aggressor. He's in it for the championship. He's trying to make things happen. I think the starter shouldn't have flown a flag. I mean, that's my contention.
Yeah,
it's messy when you do this afterwards. It's a lot simpler if the starter just says, you know what, shame on you. They had a bunch of wave-offs at Portland. Starter didn't like what he saw for whatever reason there. No. The same should have occurred here. It's messy when you try to do it after the fact like this.
You see the discussion here with John Anderson, but have a look down here. Brian Lyles has the rule book in his hand. The CART rule book is being consulted just so as they make sure they fully understand the ramifications here, because they're now fully aware of what might happen.
There are team owners Carl Haas with the cigar, Paul Newman with the beard. The discussions continue. Now, you ask what Bruno Junqueira has lost. Earlier in the weekend, in all of the pre-race press materials, Bruno Junqueira was quoting as saying he knows what he has to do is finish ahead of Paul Tracy. He has got to, as you say, Tommy, he's got to seize the initiative and get ahead of Tracy rather than steadily dropping behind week after week. Even though he's finishing up there on the podium, he is still losing ground in small increments to Paul Tracy. He's got to get ahead of him and stay there. Now, while his team talks it over, they're being told that if Bruno does not move over...
has been told, if he's bound to argue about it for a lap or 2, just stay patient. Try to be...
And there he goes.
Otherwise, they were looking at a 5-second penalty on their pit stop.
Now we just got to pull a gap.
I've never seen anything like that.
Wow.
This is part...
Wow, done a lot of racing.
Scintillating pass for the lead.
Hang in there, let's go. Let's show him.
We're 7 laps from the end of the pit window. What a roll Paul Tracy has been on of late, regardless of what happens here after that dominating flag-to-flag win from pole in Toronto. Tears on the podium, winning in front of his home fans. And I should also point out that in Toronto, his mom Vivian was there and promised Paul would win the race. Vivian was also here, and if you saw qualifying here on Speed Channel, you know she promised Paul was going to win this one as well. But that story is yet to be told. Derek Daly.
Peter Gibbons is here from the Newman Haas team. Peter, we watched it unfold, a lot of discussions. How do you read that situation? It was most unusual.
Very surprised. They threw the green flag. That implies a start. You know, if they didn't want to throw the green flag because he jumped it, they could throw a yellow. They've done that many times. It doesn't make sense.
I saw you guys had the rule book out. Were you going to potentially contest this?
I don't really know what we have to contest. So.
Do you know where the acceleration point is coming off that corner?
Yeah, obviously. But as I say, they threw the green flag. That implies a start. If they were unhappy with the start, they shouldn't have thrown the green. It's as simple as that.
Thank you, Peter.
Let's take another look at it. And my question is, can you withdraw the green if you wave it? Can you change your mind and wave the yellow?
See, there's Bruno right there. He's on it, and the flag hasn't even come out. They should have. There was such a gap here. He shouldn't even consider throwing the green. That's where the issue is, at least in my opinion.
Especially, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Peter, I can't fault anything he says. And at the driver's meeting, when you have a start situation like this where it's really hard to get rows around, they'll meet with the front row guys. So I'm sure they said, Paul, hey, we need you guys to hold the speed down. And to do that, when you're asked to do that, you need to know they're going to protect you.
The starter is J.D. Wilbur in his first year in that post, taking over from Jim Swintal. We'll be back. The General Motors Place and BC Place, home of the CFL BC Lions. Here's a look at the pit stop windows. First pit stop, mandatory pit stop window opened on lap 10. Several cars pitted before that, but we are now working lap 30, so all of the field that has not already pitted must come in, and that is everybody down to 13th place, Rodolfo Levine.
And Tracy. Look at the gap Tracy has built already.
Watch your speed in the pit lane. You've got an open pit. We're all set up and ready for you.
And that includes Derek Daly.
Look for Steve waving. Everything's going fine. You've got a 6-second gap over Junqueira. Everything's looking good.
That is the calming voice of Neil Mickelwright. There is no changes for Paul Tracy. He is very happy with the car. It looks routine so far. 4 or 5 pits down is Bruno Junqueira. Calvin?
We expect no changes on Bruno's car as well. They're waiting for fuel. Nicely struck Bridgestone tires on. Just waiting for that fuel. Oh, and he stalls it. Problem here. This is going to be wicked for the Newman Haas boys. It hasn't been going well for them today, and now Bruno stalls it late. Let's go down to Derek.
Patrick Carpentier now vaults himself to second place. Players are 1-2 as Junqueira now goes out. Carpentier had understeer. They do not want to make a change because the high speed is already a bit loose.
Outlap's got to be on it. Jimmy Vasser right here, but the big time, they got to make time right now. Jimmy on his way.
There's a massive big screen showing the race to the fans in the grandstands across from our announce position. When Patrick Carpentier swept by Bruno Junqueira into second place, the grandstand across from our announce position, looking right up over our heads, leapt to its feet to cheer for the boys. On board with Mario Dominguez and Darren Manning. Now, Dominguez is a couple of laps down. He's probably made up one by this point.
Now remember, he was out on hot tires. Everybody else has come in, had to make their pit stop, so he took advantage of that. But again, like you said, Bob, a couple laps down, just kind of trying to salvage some sort of day.
Here's Michel Jourdain running in 4th place. Now here's a real-time replay of Junqueira's stop. Here comes Carpentier to his pit.
Wow.
Remember at Toronto, it was a mistake in the pit lane that cost Bruno there as well on the way in, but I think we've got problems on track, Bob.
We do. Alex Tagliani has come together with Tiago Monteiro. Second incident of the race for Monteiro. Pieces of race car all over the chicane, leading back to the start-finish straightaway.
Monteiro is several laps down as well.
Oh, hang in there, they'll come and get you.
That was from Tag's team. Tough day for the Rocket Sports team. This is certainly not what Tag had wanted, especially going right into 3rd position there with...
Yellow flags are out. Full course caution for the 3rd time, including The early laps run under caution before the initial green.
Talk about how hard this course is on cars and drivers. Here's a good look at it.
Tagliani's climbing out. Derek Daly's with his team owner.
Paul, I know you watched the video. Have you been in contact with Tag? Do you know what happened yet?
Yeah, he got hit from behind by who knows why. A car that was out of sequence or a slower car. You know, it just drains all the emotion out of you when you're having a good day. Everybody's trying so hard, and somebody has a mental lapse that takes you out of the race. That's the hard part about this. It just breaks your heart every week.
Yes, it is, but I suspect this team can't be too far away from a potential win. They've done such a good job this year. Calvin?
Well, we saw some of the other boys are on a different strategy there. Derek naming Bourdais. We saw Dominguez in, and they just had to come in. I'm not sure if that's really an advantage. You want a yellow, but you also want those laps where you're on hot tires and kind of try and lay some hot laps down. So we'll have to see how things shake out. Bourdais was up to 4th, then he made the pit stop.
Yeah, there's 3 guys on that strategy. It's Bourdais, Fernandez, and Rodolfo Levine. And you're right, Calvin. Ideally, they'd like those laps on hot tires while the other guys are on cold ones. If they get a yellow right at the very end of the window, the extra 6 laps, it would have been ideal. I imagine it's probably about 6 of one, half dozen the other. I imagine they probably picked up a little bit, but now they've narrowed the distance that they're out of sequence. Next time they'll only have 3 laps extra to go.
On board with Tagliani in replay. There's Monteiro going down the inside. Monteiro on hot tires, Tagliani on cold ones.
He almost put it upside down.
When you hook the tires, it doesn't matter what the temperatures are.
And sure, Monteiro's on hot tires, Tag's on cold, but Monteiro is several laps down.
Right.
And so
he just ruined his day, Tag's day, for no good reason. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that I just can't stand for. You see these guys 2 laps down, okay, you know, you're out there, you want to have a good run, but you know, don't tear it up for everybody else.
Correcting where they are, that's the Science World chicane. There's Roberto Moreno, Derek Daly.
And it's a sad day for Roberto Moreno. It was such a good weekend. You had such a good qualifying session. How did you see the squeeze job of that first corner?
And the head-S competition team had a good car here also to win this race. We all know about this first corner. We all have to be careful. Everything was fine. I was paying attention with everything, made sure stay out of trouble, good start, and then somebody that start here for the first time stuck his nose underneath. What can you do? You don't even see that his nose is there. And it destroys your weekend. All the work for nothing, and just because somebody that started here for the first time doesn't realize the difficult on the first corner.
I know this is a bad day, but at least you're one of the few drivers that got to taste victory here, having won in the past.
Oh yeah, it's been fantastic at Vancouver for me. I'm glad to be back here. I'm glad that the head-S competition team gave me another opportunity to come back to racing, because racing is my life, it's in my blood, and I think we developing each weekend, and I still have what it takes. Age is not a problem for me. I've got a young spirit, and we'll be back. The good thing is next weekend we're already racing, so I'll get the frustration out very quickly.
Thank you, Roberto. And of course, the man he's talking about who raced here for the first time is Sebastian Bourdais. Calvin?
Down here we see Craig Hampson looking at the tyre management issues with the Bridgestone tyres. We hope to have a word with him, but he's on the radio with Sebastian Bourdais right now. We believe that yellow didn't fall in the right spot for them really to gain advantage, as TK mentioned.
Well, Sebastian Bourdais, coming into this race weekend, may not have raced here before at Concord Pacific Place, but he said he had looked at videotapes of previous races here to learn the track, so he should have known that turn 1 can be problematic. We'll take a break as they continue the cleanup, our 3rd yellow flag of the day. Stay with us. Welcome back to Concord Pacific Place. Here's a look at our race summary in the Champ Car Grand Prix of Vancouver. Paul Tracy is the leader, having been put into that position by an official's decision. Bruno Junqueira having jumped the start and led the early laps. We've had 2 lead changes. Junqueira at the initial green flag, then Paul Tracy took over on lap 15, or has led 15 laps. These are the cars out of the race, including the 2 Dale Coyne cars before the green flag ever waved. 6 cars out of the race, still below the average of 8.5 over the last 6 runnings of this race. There is Alex Tagliani, the most recent retirement. Derek Daly is with him.
Alex, just having a discussion here with his 2 engineers. Alex, A disappointing day. It was so good. Great opening laps again, just like Toronto, but unfortunately it just ended too soon.
Yeah, I mean, the Johnson Control team did a great job. I mean, we did, again, some changes into the car. You know, it takes a little bit of time for our team to learn all the things, but we finally go to the race. We have a good car. We had a little bit of a problem with the left front. It was going away, but I think it was, in my opinion, you know, I don't know what people think, but I think it was a silly move. There's only a place for one car to pass, and it's unfortunate for my guys, but let's think about the next one.
Thank you, Alex.
Bourdais being aggressive straight up the inside of Manning going into one.
And that will be for 5th place. The order is Tracy, Carpentier, Junqueira. Now Bourdais, then Manning, Fernandez, Vassar, Haberfeld, and Pappas. Calvin Fish.
We talked about tire management today, Bob, particularly from a wear standpoint, but for Sebastian Bourdais has another issue. He made that first pit stop after contact with Roberto Moreno. It had torn the valve stem out. Now we see more action on track. And what it did, they were hoping they could reuse that tire, put a new valve stem back in. They've not been able to do it. Sebastian Bourdais will be short one left front for the rest of the race. He's not happy about this for the next pit stop.
And he is driving with some anger. Bourdais is moving up, and so is Michel Jourdain. You ride with Bourdais. You saw Jourdain go under Bruno Junqueira for 3rd, behind Tracy and Carpentier.
These guys are getting with it now. This is the kind of things that they have to do. Jourdain making a bold move up the inside of Junqueira, and Bourdais, even with those problems he's had earlier on, carved his way right back up through the field. Little different strategy, but putting a great drive together today.
And the way that...
Taking a look up the inside, Patrick
Carpentier.
Carpentier.
Looking up the inside for 2nd. Bourdais, we said it wasn't the ideal situation, but that yellow definitely helped it more than it hurt, and Bruno's having trouble getting going.
That's the 2nd time he's been sideways.
Big time sideways. Whether he has a... God, there's lots of scrambling going on back there in the back.
He has a tire going down.
But depending on how this race unfolds with yellows, Haberfeld going underneath Vassar. Vassar looking to the outside. Here comes Dominguez underneath Pappas.
That's Max Pappas in the white Scientific Atlanta car for PK Racing in the middle of it all.
These guys are getting with it.
There's Vassar, Dominguez, Pappas, then Levine.
Coming back after it. Now remember, Dominguez is actually 2 laps down.
Ryan Hunter-Reay behind him.
And it looks like the cold tires, for whatever, maybe in terms of the cold pressures that they have to set the tires at, the cars are really skating around.
Oh, underneath Pappas. Wow. Levine, and he goes straight.
Hunter-Reay sticking his nose in there. Can't quite get it done.
Hunter-Reay is on the lead lap. Word from the corner workers in turn 6 is that Paul Tracy brushed the wall. That's turn 6 right there.
The guy's really struggling with getting the tires up to optimum pressure and temperature. That lap for Paul Tracy was a 1:07, full 7 seconds slower than he qualified.
But a full second faster than the next quickest man. His teammate Patrick Carpentier in 2nd. Tracy's lead 2.7 seconds last time by.
I'd say Jimmy, knowing Jimmy, probably just let Dominguez by. He knows he's 2 laps down, no reason to fight, and not take a chance of getting caught up in a stupid mistake.
This is Sebastian Bourdais, who spent about 3/4 of an hour in the medical unit on Friday afternoon, complaining of flu-like symptoms.
You hear the wheel spin coming out that corner. The engine racing, wheels breaking traction, even in a straight line.
Man, this place is fast.
Down to Derek Daly with more on Paul Tracy.
On the wheel incident against the wall, I asked Neil Mickelwright, did he brush the wall? He said he hasn't said anything, and then he said that's just part of a normal lap for Paul, to brush the wall and just not say anything. It's just normal for him.
Paul Tracy, in the meantime, with all that action going on in the back, is carved out just a little over 3 seconds ahead of Patrick, his teammate. And this is a great position for PT. He's got Carpentier, his teammate, behind him. Easily, and I'll guarantee there's team orders here. They want nothing more than to see Paul win a championship for players and the whole team. Carpentier certainly not being in the same position as Paul could easily be a key factor in how things play out today.
And this will do a tremendous amount to soothe Paul Tracy, obviously if he wins the race, but regardless of what happens, to have another dominant performance like this is really reassuring for Paul heading into the most important part of the season.
Penalty for Max Pappas. A drive-through penalty for blocking. Well, he's got lots of wheel spin too.
This track's real tough, especially coming off yellows. Seems like the tires really pick up a lot of stuff.
But your pressures are going up. I don't see anything with tires.
Pick up a lot of debris from the track, and it just seems like the way the tires cool off, they pick up some rubber, and you got to be very aggressive to try and get them cleaned up before coming back to the green. If not, we can see a lot of the action like we just saw.
View from overhead.
What a performance by Paul Tracy. 0.7 of a second quicker than everybody on that lap. It took him a little while to get things worked out with Bruno getting around him, but he said he was going to hit the express checkout all cash, and he is making good on his word.
$1 million worth of cash at the end of the season, perhaps. Let's look at our Ford telemetry.
75, 176 down the back straight.
Amazing. 2 weeks ago in Toronto, Paul said he was going to get after it, and he absolutely blew everyone in the weeds. Now he's doing the same thing again this weekend. It's hard to believe that a guy with a reputation for racing as hard as Paul Tracy can raise his game that much again.
Well, we assume that he's been running every lap 10/10, and he said in the pre-race interview that he'd been overly cautious on the Bridgestone tires. And we've seen the Bridgestone tires just do not go away, no matter what you baby them. So he's been babying these tires, really running hard up to every pit stop. But he decided, you know what?
4.6 plus 4.6 on time.
I'm going to run it hard and see if the tires hold up, and they didn't. In Toronto, surprised himself. He was leaving a lot on the table. 9/10 quicker than Carpentier that lap.
2 weeks ago in Toronto, players announced that they are ending 40-plus years of support of Canadian motor racing. They're a tobacco company, and by law, they will have to leave at the 1st of October. In all those years, they have never had a 1-2 finish in Champ Cars. At Laguna Seca this year, Paul Tracy was third when Patrick Carpentier, his teammate, won. They have never had a 1-2 finish. Right now, they run 1-2. We'll take a break and return with more of the Champ Car Grand Prix of Vancouver. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Champ Car Grand Prix of Vancouver. Bob Varsha along with Tommy Kendall, Scott Pruitt, Derek Daly, and Calvin Fish. It has been, at the very least, an interesting race. Two teammates, Jeff Boss and Walter Salas from Dale Coyne Racing, crashed out of the race on the parade laps. After several laps run under yellow, we got the green flag. Bruno Junqueira was ruled to have jumped the start, so he handed the lead back to Paul Tracy, who now has it as we work lap number 47 of 50.
On board with Adrian Fernandez. Actually having a pretty solid run today. Currently running 6th. Needs to have a big turnaround. They made a big change.
He's employing the same strategy as Bourdais. They extended their window on those early cautions. They still had to make the same number of stops as everybody else.
And from overhead, watch Darren Manning closing up on the back of Adrian Fernandez. Contact in turn 6. Oh, and a part off of, hard to tell which car.
That was the flugel off of the side pod.
Fernandez?
Fernandez in the red.
That's as close as you can get without crashing right there. Both of those guys leaned on each other. Fortunately managed to carry on. Paul Tracy just checking out. Continually running a half second to 3/4 second faster than everybody else per lap.
A couple laps ago, Max Pappas was given a drive-through penalty for blocking. He currently runs 12th, last car on the lead lap. Calvin Fish has more.
Down here with Craig Pollock. We saw Max make a drive-through penalty there. Craig, what was the situation on the racetrack? What caused that?
Well, we believe it was for blocking. Obviously, we've spoken to Mac. He hasn't said anything about it, and we believe that he knows that if he did block, he had to do it. So we've got a drive-through.
Been an increase in performance this weekend. You got some new parts on the car, new uprights, braking a lot better. Max feels a lot more confident in the car this weekend.
Well, he appears to be a lot more confident. His race pace has picked up. Yeah, we do have new parts in the car. We're certainly trying to do well, but we've still got a long way to go.
Okay, and of course they have Big Mo Gugelmin. He's one here over at Vancouver, certainly trying to share his advice this weekend as well. Let's go down to Derek.
With Ray Lato here, team manager for Michel Jourdain. I wanted to say he was having a quiet day until the early laps after that last restart. He was pretty good on cold tires.
Yeah, I think he had the measure of Bruno on cold tires there. Bruno got locked up and took advantage of it. Right now we're just fighting a little understeer and trying to push to the stop here and try and get past.
Ray, you have a Lola, Tracy has a Lola. Why is he so much faster?
Well, it seems like, you know, this is like we were at Long Beach, you know, we pulled away and Paul couldn't catch us, you know. Last 2 weeks he's been like that. So, you know, sometimes you really click on it and sometimes you're just off that couple of tenths.
Indeed, and of course, remember Jourdain on cold tires at Laguna Seca when we were on board with him on his onboard camera. He was spectacular there also.
The point worth remembering in all of this is that even though the chassis may be called Lolas, virtually every team up and down the pit lane makes their own little tweaks to them. You heard Craig Pollock say, yes, we have new parts on the car. That Scientific Atlanta car from PK Racing was probably the closest thing to a stock Lola that was out there. The teams are constantly trying to improve them within the regulations and being good racers, sometimes outside the regulations, but that's what technical inspection is for. Now let's enjoy some sounds of speed with Patrick Carpentier.
Laps to go. Great job. Keep going.
Time on our visor cam, we see ventilation holes drilled in the visor of Patrick Carpentier's helmet.
They also work well to, especially in rain conditions, they run just a little bit of air over the inside of the visor to keep it from fogging. That was a little trick we did. We didn't actually drill the holes. We just ran the visor up a little bit. You can see the visor just cracked open slightly, getting a little air pushing through.
Stop.
I know we all say funny things from time to time, but it was interesting. Last time by the pits, his team said, halfway, 50 laps to go, keep going. Duh, what am I going to do? You mean I can't stop now?
I didn't get that. Any changes on the stop? Any changes next stop? No, it's okay for now.
But Patrick Carpentier had his big crash in qualifying. In replay, you saw him let go of the steering wheel as soon as he knew that he was going to hit the wall. I think he's still favoring that wrist that he hurt in that bicycle crash and aggravated in Cleveland. Let's go to Calvin Fish.
Jimmy Vasser running in the top 10 here with Stefan Johansson. Jimmy's lost a lot of ground, Stefan, in the last few laps. We understand some tire pressure issues for you.
Yeah, well, actually not in the last few laps. He lost a huge amount of time in the first 10 laps, about 15 seconds. Just couldn't get the car to grip at all. It took 10 laps for the pressures to come up.
We hear a lot more about teams adjusting the pressures slightly higher, better earlier in the run. You drop them, they'll come in stronger at the end. Is it that critical, Stefan?
It's super sensitive, and I don't understand why. I mean, he's within half a pound, you know. It's the difference between good or bad at the moment, it seems like, which is abnormal. It shouldn't be that critical, but we dropped him down just a little bit from the first run because he was complaining about pressures. Crept up a little bit too high, so we thought we'd adjust him down, but clearly we've got to go back to you know, how we had it on the first set, I think, for the next run.
Okay, well, that half a pound cost him about 15 seconds over the course of 5 laps. That's a monster amount of time.
It is that. Thank you, Calvin. Stefan Johansson has 2 podium finishes here in Vancouver in 1991 and 92, driving for the late Tony Bettenhausen. We'll take a break and return to the Grand Prix of Vancouver. And so there you have it. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the show, this is a busy time of the season. Lots of races coming up. Next week, Road America, then Mid-Ohio, then an open weekend, fishing, testing, sleeping, whatever you like, followed by Montreal and then Denver. And Road America is a very special occasion. Remember, a pioneering broadcast. The Champ Car World Series will appear on high-definition TV on HDNet. First ever auto race on HDNet. If you haven't seen high-def TV, wait till you get a load of this. It's the Mario Andretti Grand Prix at Road America. If you don't have HDNet at home, log on to CART.com to see a list of sports-themed restaurants, bars, and so on that will air the HDNet race broadcast on Sunday, August 3rd. And if you can't catch the broadcast, come to the racetrack for the first time ever. Mario Andretti, Emerson Fittipaldi, and Paul Newman will conduct a fan forum to answer your questions. Great racetrack, great weekend. Come on out. I'm going to be there, and I'm not even working. Let's go to Calvin Fish.
Earlier we saw Adrian Fernandez lose the flugel on the side pod, Bob, and I checked in with the team to see how things are going. They said a lot better since he lost that. That's about 150 pounds of downforce. Adrian struggled with understeer all weekend long. He says it's actually made the car more balanced, so sometimes you just get lucky.
Yeah, I guess so. Take the hammer to it.
As we head to this pit stop, I'd like to reset and really keep an eye on Bourdais. Now, he can go 2 laps longer than all the front runners. All the front runners will be in a lap and a half. On lap 60, Bourdais will stay out. He's in 5th place right now, 18.3 seconds behind Tracy. He's going to try to run his 2 best laps of the day, and then he'll come out on cold tires somewhere in the middle of those guys. But that's what we're going to be watching as we come into and out of these pit stops.
Board with Adrian Fernandez. Start, finish, turn 1. It's a real tough complex down through here, as we saw at the start of the race. Right, left, right, onto the back straight.
It's a long corner where you can't see around the inside wall. You sit below the level of the wall, and so you can see the road reveals itself 1 block at a time, and the inside is not perfectly smooth. Some of those jump out a little bit, and it's tight enough that the rear of the car travels a slightly shorter arc than the front. So you have to be careful not clip the right rear through that tight turn 4.
Have to get the car to change directions well here in Vancouver.
10-4. We're all set up ready for you.
Paul Tracy now with a 15.5-second lead over Patrick Carpentier, but here's the battle. Carpentier, Jourdain, Junqueira, and Sebastian Bourdais. 2, 3, 4, and 5.
And pit stops coming up this lap. So they're on lap 59, they're going to 60, so you see all these guys busting on in.
And we were talking to Ray Lito. He said we want to try to close up on Pat. He was about 4 seconds behind at that point. And both Jourdain and Bruna pulled themselves up on the back of Carpentier. He was complaining about a lot of understeer before the last stop. Something's going on because he's falling back into these guys' clutches.
Race leader is in. Derek Daly awaits him.
Watch your speed in the pit lane. You've got an open pit, front and back. We're all set up and ready for you. You have a 15-second lead. Look for Steve right underneath his hand. Nice and smooth, right on the marks.
There are no changes planned for Paul Tracy. They give him a drink. He did not request a drink, but they give him a nice cold drink just in case. He throws it back. Tracy is so pleased with the car. Monteiro comes in. Calvin.
Bruno Junqueira pulls it in. We expect no changes. They are concerned about Bourdais. We expect a short fill here, meaning they're not going to top him right off. Try and gain a couple of seconds maybe here in the pit lane. And he's underway. Good start this time. No stall.
He will not get to Carpentier, but it will go by Jourdain. Now that's something you don't often see. The Ray Hall Letterman pit crew is among the best in the business, but they got beaten there.
Talking about doing a short field, that might, there you have Adrian Fernandez going up the inside.
He's one of the cars like Bourdais who's on hot tires. This is going to mess with Fernandez. He needed a clear racetrack to make use of those extra 2 laps.
Aboard with Dominguez.
Shouldn't do that. Dominguez, couple laps to go.
That was Carpentier, not Tracy.
And remember, Dominguez is 2 laps down.
Okay, let's get gathered up, Pat. Let's get gathered up.
Carpentier is steaming, and rightfully so.
You know what? It's just uncalled for. These guys doing this stuff 2 laps down, park them.
Dominguez is going to retake the track.
You've been quite the prophet today, Scott. Jump start, shouldn't do that. Wham! Wow.
Surprised that visor cam's not missed it over. Another look. Carpentier on his normal line.
And look at Dominguez.
I'm not sure he was going to make that corner.
Yeah, I doubt if he would have made it in. He was up the inside, got in too deep. Trying to make a bold move. Dumbass move.
And Pat kind of gave him a little bit of a juke, saying, hey, what are you doing? You should stay behind me.
There's Bruno Junqueira going through from overhead.
He wasn't going to make the corner. Pat was starting to arc in.
Bourdais makes his stop. Calvin Fish.
Well, I would expect them to top him right off here, and we understand this set of tires is good. It'll be his final set. Like a mixed match. Left front tire, good clean stop for the Lily boys.
Bourdais coming down the pit lane behind him.
You'll see his teammate right here.
There's Carpentier. Again, our pictures coming to us from Global TV.
This will be a big. There we go.
There are the Newman Haas teammates. Bourdais leading Junqueira.
Now he can't block here.
So you see him slide under, but what's happening is he's pulling himself closer. He'll get an opportunity to do the exact same thing on the next and final stop. Bruno probably did a short fill. If Sebastian took a normal fill, he'll be stationary.
Bruno, you're P2 right now. Sebastian behind you is 4th position.
If Bruno did a normal one, he'll be stationary slightly less time. But remember, he was a good ways behind Bruno and Jourdain when they pitted. So net, he's making time on this strategy.
Definitely a short fill for Junqueira. We'll take a break and return. Plenty more action still to come from the Champ Car Grand Prix of Vancouver. Stay with us. Or so race-crazy fans packed into Concord Pacific Place, working lap 65 of the Champ Car Grand Prix of Vancouver. Paul Tracy is the leader, having led 40 laps, had 4 lead changes, and 3 caution flags in one of the more bizarre race starts you will ever see.
Not just race starts. I think some of the action and some of the drivers few laps down, it's just.
That last one with Dominguez is just mind-boggling.
The cars out of the race. Salas and Boss from Dale Coyne Racing out on the parade lap. Both cars got into the wall on cold tires. And the occupational hazards of street circuit racing. Alex Tagliani and Monteiro collided. But we are still under the 6-race average for cars out of the race due to contact.
By 1. Or 1.2, whatever that is.
As the saying goes, they ain't over yet. There's Paul Tracy, who was jumped by Bruno Junqueira at the start. When officials finally straightened things out, they made Junqueira give the race lead back to Tracy, and he has simply dominated since then. His lead now 17.2 seconds with 1 more pit stop to go in the race.
Some big moves by his teammate Bourdais. I've been pretty impressed with the strategy they got going, and that's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Being able to stay out a couple more laps could be the difference between 2nd and 3rd.
If he can be reasonably close to Bruno when they make their final stops, when it all shakes out, Sebastian will be in 2nd.
On board with Sebastian.
8 cars on the lead lap. Jimmy Vasser is the last of those. Paul Tracy will be looming in his mirror shortly. Top rookie in the field right now is the man you ride with, Sebastian Bourdais. Mario Haberfeld runs 6th. Darren Manning 7th. There is Haberfeld. Calvin Fish is standing by with his car owner.
Here with Eric Bachelard. Eric, a great day for you, leading Reynard right now in the field. How's the day going? How's the balance?
It's pretty good. We made a few adjustments during the pit stops, and I think it's pretty happy. He's turning some very good laps right now, so everything is looking good right now.
People said you couldn't race here. It's too tight. We've seen a lot of action out there today.
Yes, there is, and I guess, you know, Mario stayed out of trouble so far. We told him to be patient and, you know, just be in the finish. He'll be in good shape, so that's what he's doing right now, so everything is good.
Okay, another very impressive performance by this young team, Bob.
Looks like Adrian has a problem.
Yeah, that was for position. That was Haberfeld going by Fernandez for 5th. Sounds all right.
Yeah, it does.
There's Haberfeld, his best finish of the year, 4th. That storming drive he put in St. Petersburg, Florida in the season opener. Opening lots of eyes, not the least of which were Bruno Junqueira's when Haberfeld took him all the way to the pit wall to keep him behind him. Back on board with Paul Tracy. That's probably Jimmy Vasser on the road just ahead. The last of the 8 cars on the lead lap. Derek Daly.
Bob, here's something the players team would like to know. Did Paul Tracy officially lead this race right off the bat? Because he's chasing a particular record. He's chasing Rick Mears for second in the all-time list of laps led. Tracy, if he gets that 24 laps back that Bruno maybe led officially or unofficially, he will finish this race if he leads all the laps within 10 of that record held by Rick Mears.
Would they give those laps? I don't think you can take those laps from
rewrite history like that.
But you can be sure Paul Tracy is going to go a long way up those all-time laps led charts. Won't get to Michael Andretti, I doubt. He was about 3,000 laps ahead of his nearest rival in terms of laps led. Jimmy Vasser goes down a lap. There are now 7 cars on the lead lap. Calvin Fish has more on Adrian Fernandez.
Well, a very obscure fault down here for Adrian. He radioed in that he'd lost power on the engine, and then suddenly it cleared back up. So the engineers are pouring over the telemetry here. They've been unable to pinpoint what the problem is, but hopefully he's back underway. But we've seen that happen before, and sometimes we see smoke a couple of laps later, Bob.
That's Darren Manning sliding into view behind the Tecate Quaker State car.
It looks like Calvin might be just right. It looks like there might be just a hint of smoke coming out the back of Adrian's car as it came on the back straight.
We think it's the bottom of the car. We think it's a skid. Does it smell like wood?
Does it smell like wood?
That's called jab rock. To lighten these cars, they're trying to keep them on weight. You actually use a jab rock skid. And yeah, when you're hitting the ground, it smells like burning wood.
Right. It's particle board, essentially. Very hard, but very easy to wear down incrementally. And much less expensive than other materials. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to a beautiful day in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Be sure to check out Winston Cup Wednesdays here on Speed Channel, beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Rehash of that weekend's Winston Cup race, enhanced with interviews and a whole lot more. Winston Cup Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern, only on Speed Channel. 70,000 or so race-crazy fans packed into Concord Pacific Place, working lap 65 of the Champ Car Grand Prix of Vancouver. Paul Tracy is the leader, having led 40 laps, had 4 lead changes, 3 caution flags, and one of the more bizarre race starts you will ever see.
Not just race starts. I think some of the action of some of the drivers, few laps down, it's just...
That last one with Dominguez is just mind-boggling.
The cars out of the race. Salas and Boss from Dale Coyne Racing out on the parade lap. Both cars got into the wall on cold tires. And the occupational hazards of street circuit racing. Alex Tagliani and Tiago Monteiro collided. But we are still under the 6-race average for cars out of the race due to contact.
By 1. Or 1.2, whatever that is.
As the saying goes, they ain't over yet. There's Paul Tracy, who was jumped by Bruno Junqueira at the start. When officials finally straightened things out, they made Junqueira give the race lead back to Tracy, and he has simply dominated since then. His lead now 17.2 seconds with 1 more pit stop to go in the race.
Some big moves by his teammate Bourdais. I've been pretty impressed with the strategy they got going, and that's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Being able to stay out a couple more laps could be the difference between second and third.
If he can be reasonably close to Bruno when they make their final stops, when it all shakes out, Sebastian will be in second.
On board with Sebastian.
8 cars on the lead lap. Jimmy Vasser is the last of those. Paul Tracy will be looming in his mirror shortly. Top rookie in the field right now is the man you ride with, Sebastian Bourdais. Mario Haberfeld runs 6th. Darren Manning 7th. There is Haberfeld. Calvin Fish is standing by with his car owner.
Here with Eric Bachelard. Eric, a great day for you, leading Reynard right now in the field. How's the day going? How's the balance?
It's pretty good. We made a few adjustments during the pit stops, and I think it's pretty happy. He's turning some very good laps right now, so everything is looking good right now.
People said you couldn't race here. It's too tight. We've seen a lot of action out there today.
Yes, there is, and I guess, you know, Mario stayed out of trouble so far. We told him to be patient and, you know, just be in the finish and be in good shape, so that's what he's doing right now, so everything is good.
Okay, another very impressive performance by this young team, Bob.
Looks like Adrian has a problem.
Yeah, that was for position. That was Haberfeld going by Fernandez for 5th.
Just hang in there, keep going.
Car sounds all right.
Yeah, it does.
There was Haberfeld, his best finish of the year, 4th. That storming drive he put in St. Petersburg, Florida in the season opener. Opening lots of eyes, not the least of which were Bruno Junqueira's when Haberfeld took him all the way to the pit wall to keep him behind him. Back on board with Paul Tracy. That's probably Jimmy Vasser on the road just ahead. The last of the 8 cars on the lead lap. Derek Daly.
Bob, here's something the players team would like to know. Did Paul Tracy officially lead this race right off the bat? Because he's chasing a particular record. He's chasing Rick Mears for 2nd in the all-time list of laps led. Tracy, if he gets that 24 laps back that Bruno maybe led officially or unofficially, he will finish this race if he leads all the laps within 10 of that record held by Rick Mears.
Would they give those laps? I don't think you can take those laps from
rewrite history like that.
But you can be sure Paul Tracy is going to go a long way up those all-time laps led charts. Won't get to Michael Andretti, I doubt. He was about 3,000 laps ahead of his nearest rival in terms of laps led. Jimmy Vasser goes down a lap. There are now 7 cars on the lead lap. Calvin Fish has more on Adrian Fernandez.
Well, a very obscure fault down here for Adrian. He radioed in that he'd lost power on the engine, and then suddenly it cleared back up. So the engineers are pouring over the telemetry here. They've been unable to pinpoint what the problem is, but hopefully he's back underway. But we've seen that happen before, and sometimes we see smoke a couple of laps later, Bob.
That's Darren Manning sliding into view behind the Tecate Quaker State car.
Looks like Calvin might be just right. It looks like there might be just a hint of smoke coming out the back of Adrian's car as it came on the back straight.
We think it's the bottom of the car. We think it's the skid. Does it smell like wood?
Does it smell like wood?
That's called jab rock. To lighten these cars, they're trying to keep them on weight. You actually use a jab rock skid. And yeah, when you're hitting the ground, it smells like burning wood.
Right. It's particle board, essentially. Very hard, but very easy to wear down incrementally. And much less expensive than other materials. We'll be back in a moment.
All healthcare companies say they care, but I need more than talk.
Pacific Air believes caring is good. Doing something is better.
From now on, there's gonna be a better way, a brand new day.
Of course, in healthcare, you have to care, but people expect deeds, not just words. That's what we deliver.
World Series. It's always been the place where drivers come to prove themselves. The pursuit of speed on a global stage. The true challenge of driver, team, and technology. The search for the ultimate prize, the championship. Who will emerge?
Welcome back to the Champ Car Grand Prix of Vancouver. Bob Barsha, Tommy Kendall, Scott Pruitt, Derek Daly, and Calvin Fish with you. Paul Tracy leads Bruno Junqueira and Sebastian Bourdais, the leaders, working lap number 71. You ride with Adrian Fernandez, currently in 6th place, apparently with some mechanical issues. Paul Tracy, meanwhile, has clinched the championship bonus point for most laps led in the race, regardless of what Bruno Junqueira's laps in the lead. I'm convinced that those laps will remain Junqueira's, but one way or the other, Paul Tracy will have that bonus point.
And to underscore the pace that Paul Tracy is running, he is now lapped up through 6th place. They've only been green now for about 40 some laps. So just an incredible performance, backing up between Toronto and here. I was trying to think when the last time we saw a performance like this. It had to be a long ways back, because in the 3-4 years ago, that was in the height of the fuel economy wars, so guys would never pull out this big a lead. You have to go back probably to the early 90s to come up with some performances like definitely smoke, and that is not wood smoke, is it?
Yeah, no. I'd say it's only a matter of time before Fernandez will be coming in and checking out something in the back. He's gone askew.
On board with Sebastian Bourdais, running in 3rd spot. Winner for the first time on U.S. soil at Cleveland, running under the lights at Burke Lakefront Airport. And there's an unusual tradition among the Champ Car drivers and their close friends living in South Florida. We'll tell you more about that in a moment.
Now this is lap traffic in front of Max Pappas. Lets him go.
Pappas in a dice there with Levine. Max took enough heat after Cleveland, and with the earlier blocking penalty today, the last thing he wants to do is give up with that battle with Levine, but he probably did not want to get some more attention from the officials. Hopefully Levine will do about the same thing.
This was moments ago. This is Bruno Junqueira. Look at, there's debris on the racetrack there to the right as that trio of cars comes through.
I think that's the Flugel from Fernandez.
Yep.
Earlier
Still laying there.
It's like Bourdais got just into the side of that.
We've had a full course caution since then, have we not? I can't believe that debris. No, I guess not. We've been green flagged since then. And now Adrian Fernandez, we are told, will be black flagged for that smoke out the back of the race car.
And Bob, he's done a full lap, because in through turn 1 here on that last lap, the oil was spraying all over the back of the car. So expect a slippery situation out there for the rest of the boys.
He's in the pits now, but good point, Derek. What condition is the racetrack in? Calvin Fish waits for Adrian Fernandez.
Well, they bring him in and they're going to check it out, and the team are not too concerned. That puts him in the window to go the rest of the way without another stop. We're past lap 70. There's a lot of smoke emanating from under the hood back there.
And he shuts it off.
It's really unusual. Ford Cosworth's done a tremendous job this year. I'm not sure if it's engine related or something else, but regardless, it's a tough day for Adrian.
He has not had good memories of this place. Trying to recall the last time we saw one of those Ford Cosworths let go. I believe it was in Long Beach when Sebastian Bourdais lost an engine. Fernandez retired here in Vancouver as a result of contact in '97, the 2001 race, last year, and now mechanical failure. We talked about how vicious Vancouver can be. 8.5 cars lost due to contact in the last 6 years. Can't put Fernandez in the contact category, but we're creeping up on that average. These are the cars out of the race. Walter Salas and Jeff Boss before the green flag ever waved. Roberto Moreno in the first green flag lap, getting together with Sebastian Bourdais. Oriol Servia, Diego Monteiro actually dropped out. He was involved in those first lap fracas, but then got together with Tagliani later in the race. There's Adrian Fernandez. Let's go to Calvin.
Adrian, you're having such a strong run. You had problems getting the balance right all weekend. The car looked pretty strong today up in the top 5. You lost power. What happened?
I got it's an oil leak or something is happening to the engine. We don't know. I was starting to smell a lot of oil from the engine. And I slowed the pace. I didn't want to have a shunt there. Especially because when you crash there, nobody can see you. So
you've had experience with that one.
Exactly. And I was right. They thought it was something rubbing on the tire, but I could smell it. I knew it was engine oil. And we were struggling with the car, but you know, I was hanging on there, and I feel I could have finished 5 if we could have just finished the race.
Well, top 5 would have been a great result from where they started the race, Bob, back in 14th.
Ooh, I didn't
see the oil. Let's go back and take another look at, we believe, Sebastian Bourdais hitting that piece of debris, bodywork on the racetrack. Looks like Max Pappas might have gotten into it ahead of him. And from the police blotter, Rodolfo Levine and Mario Haberfeld are about to be penalized for blocking. More on that when we return to Vancouver. After he won the Indianapolis 500 this year. Great little tradition up to the swimming pool part, of course. But there's a few drivers who'd be willing to shell out for lunch and a dunking if they could pick up a victory.
Driving for Carl Haas, he might have to use his credit card because he's not making much cash.
There is Paul Tracy working lap number 78 of 100. And we now have 5 cars on the lead lap. It's been another astonishing drive from Paul Tracy.
Plus 19 on Junkie, plus 19. You got a little more traffic ahead. Just be patient.
Now 4 cars. He just got by Haberfeld. Just setting a blistering pace a la Toronto.
Now, as we mentioned before the break, Rodolfo Levine and Mario Haberfeld have penalties coming up for blocking. More on Haberfeld. Here's Calvin Fish.
The team are up in arms, Bob. What actually happened was during a pit stop, apparently Haberfeld went into the lane in front of Manning, I believe it was, similar to what happened to Paul Tracy and Jourdain in Portland. So that's the situation here. The team don't believe that was really the case, and always on these things, it's always a fine line on the call.
Well, this is just another example of the officials saying, hey, there's a new way of doing business now, and race car drivers, they're not quite as hard to train as cats, but they're pretty close. But you need to be consistent and really let them know, and pretty soon they'll be thinking, you know what, they might be looking, they might have me on one of the monitors in race control, and I'm just not going to do it here.
Too much at stake. It's interesting that there must be 2 different circumstances because there are 2 different penalties. Haberfeld will be docked a 5-second hold on his next pit stop. Rodolfo Levine has a drive-through penalty.
I think the difference there probably being one maybe being a pit lane violation and one being an out and out on the racetrack block.
Yep. So you take him off the track.
Now the gap is stabilized here between Paul and Bruno. I mean, it's huge. It's 18-something seconds. Bruno's actually running slightly quicker. Now he's trying to keep the gap back to Bourdais. They're in their own little race. But it's interesting, the psyche of race car drivers. After the shellacking that Paul gave everybody at Toronto, Bruno was talking to Paul this race. He says, hey, you know, Paul, after that one stop, you only pulled out 2 seconds on me. Yeah, but I was already 30 seconds ahead of you. So in Bruno's mind, he left there saying, you know, we really were just as quick as Paul. So here, he'll leave here saying the same thing. He's 18 seconds behind. He says, you know what, we were running much quicker than Paul mid-race. But it's essential to do that to maintain your confidence.
Bruno lives by his own set of ideas. There's no question about that.
Paul Tracy has completed lap number 80 with an 18-second lead over Bruno Junqueira. You ride with Sebastian Bourdais in 3rd, 22.5 seconds behind the race leader. Michel Jourdain is now the only other car on the lead lap.
Following up on that even more, drivers, to maintain that all-important confidence, you never think you're wrong. And sometimes you hear some of the comments they make, and you say, what is that guy thinking? Like, when I was talking to Paul during this whole flap over taking his lap away, he cited a couple incidents. He says, these guys are just out to get me. But it's what you have to do to maintain that psyche. You have to believe you're the best in the world. Anything that doesn't jive with that view, you come up with this wild rationalization on why it's not true. Those of us with a little perspective can see it, but that's part of the psyche that allows them to take these risks. They've got to believe they're the best.
I had a discussion with Jim McGee from the Patrick team over the weekend. He said exactly that. You have to believe you're the best. There has to be arguments within the team. A lot of strong personalities trying to work together with one goal. Jimmy Besser, 6th place. Calvin Fish.
Well, Jimmy's up in the top 6, but he's got some gearbox issues going on. He's lost 3rd gear, and typically when you have bits floating around in the gearbox, it may mean he'll have other problems over the last 20 laps, so he's just trying to hang in there. Haberfeld, remember, has a penalty, so it may jump him up if he can keep going.
We're also getting a report that Mario Haberfeld, who's on the road ahead of Jimmy, is dragging something. Wow. Streets of Concord Pacific Place are going to look like the Confederate rail yard scene in Gone with the Wind at the rate we're going.
It's a tough track. I mean, it's tough on drivers and cars, not just from all the contact, but it's just pretty brutal at tearing things up.
Looking at Haberfeld's car right there, the MyJack car. Conquest Racing.
The Reynards have been a little bit more competitive recently, and Mario Haberfeld is running the Penske developed, they call it the Rainski or the whatever, front wing. I talked to Derek Manning about it a bit as well. They learned a lot about things, the attention to detail that Penske has. And the front wing, it's a little bit different contour, but it's a lot more rigid, and it makes a little bit more downforce, but what they're finding is it makes a lot more downforce once the wheels are turned. And so a lot of guys do their wind tunnel testing with the wheels pointed straight ahead. Well, that's not how it works in the real world. For whatever reason, when you turn the wheels with the Penske front wing, it doesn't lose near the amount of downforce.
Straighter turning, this guy is always fast. Paul Tracy looking for his 2nd consecutive win on home soil. We'll be back with more from Vancouver in a moment. Pruitt, Derek Daly, and Calvin Fish with you. Paul Tracy, his lead is now down to 16.6 seconds over Bruno Junqueira. Sebastian Bourdais runs 3rd, Michel Jourdain 4th, and the last car on the lead lap. Derek Daly.
Fellas, I want to listen to the radio broadcast. That was Tony Sicali. No driver, remember, has won Toronto and Vancouver in the same year since 1992. One of the reasons Paul Tracy is not as fast in this stint is his tire pressures, for some peculiar reason, have not come up to the operating pressure that is ideal. They are just about a pound shy. So for the next set, they've actually raised the tire pressures in his new set of tires that he's going to put on in the next set. So I just don't want to make Bruno's day worse than it is, but Paul's not on full song.
It's all the more puzzling that he's so much quicker early in the stint than the other guys.
Now, 1 pound doesn't sound like very much, but that's a pretty big change when you're talking about the spring rate of these tires. Typically, we're talking about quarter pounds, half pounds. That's a pretty big change. So when he says it's a pound, that's not a, it doesn't sound like much, but it's a big change for what these cars want.
A quarter of a pound is like 50 pounds of spring rate.
And what that can do, it doesn't just affect the spring rate of the tire. The spring rate, overall spring rate of the spring and the tire affects the dynamic rake of the car. So if the rear tires aren't coming up to temperature, the rear of the car might be slightly lower. That shifts the center of pressure created by the underwing back. It's a big domino effect and makes it hard to get these cars in the sweet spot that they'd like to be. Makes you appreciate how hard it is when someone puts a setup together that's that much better than everybody else's. You realize how complicated, how many pieces had to come together for that to be just so.
Paul Tracy has been dominant, but here's an interesting part of Paul Tracy's story. No one has ever questioned his speed. Look where he stands in the Champ Car all-time win list. Michael Andretti was that last man to win Toronto and Vancouver in the same year back in 1992. But of all those drivers, all those great names, from Andretti all the way down to Cristiano D'Amato, last year's champion, each of those men, with the exception of Paul Tracy, won at least one CART Champ Car title. Paul Tracy is hoping to win his first this year, and today he's looking no farther than his 24th career victory. We'll be back in a moment.
Win Wind Tunnel with Dave Despain.
Chance for you to sound off no matter what kind of racing you like. Let's go to line 2. Frank from Jacksonville, Florida. Mitch in Illinois. Get to your point.
Dave's talking motorsports live.
We have great guests tonight. Welcome, please, Nicky Grist. Please welcome Paul Tracy. Steve Matchett will join us for Formula One.
Call in or email.
It's old Dave here, your big old self-centered TV windbag.
Wind Tunnel with Dave Despain. Friday nights at 11, only on Speed.
Would you like to own your own business and enjoy financial independence? Nationwide Cyber Systems introduces the most exciting business opportunity of the 21st century, public access internet terminals. These amazing machines offer high-speed internet access, email, and video email to the public for only 25 cents per minute. They take cash and credit cards. Bill Gates says in any area where there's payphones, you'll start to find public internet terminals. Forecasters predict that 300,000 of these machines will be in service throughout the U.S. by 2005. How many would you like to own? Nationwide can start you in a turnkey business and help you secure the most profitable locations in your area before someone else gets them. You can start part-time and expand according to your own timetable. Call now for your free video and information package. There is unlimited income potential. Don't delay. The best locations won't last long.
Welcome back. It's a floating city, a couple of them as a matter of fact. Down on the bay in Vancouver and across to the coastal range. Beautiful mountains, including the Grouse Mountain ski area that will be one of the event sites when the Olympic Winter Games comes to Vancouver, Canada in 2010. People here in Vancouver, Canada's third largest city, are absolutely over the moon about having the Olympics. And having lived in Atlanta in '96 and before that when Atlanta got the Summer Games, I can tell you it's an amazing makeover for a city. There is Bruno Junqueira, who has lost a second on the last lap or so. He's now 17.4 seconds behind race leader Paul Tracy. Tracy looking for his second win in as many races here in Canada. As Jimmy Vasser makes a stop, his last one of the race. Looks like he's got a mixed set of tires there. Stickers on the front. The rears look scuffed.
He actually may have 3. I think he probably has 3 scrubs and 1 sticker. A lot of times what may happen is you locked up the fronts, flat spotted them, and CART actually you have an allotment. You can go back and get another tire from him. So I think that he probably had 3 scrubs and 1 sticker on that.
The point I was going to make about Paul Tracy is if he picks up the win today, he'll have won both of the Canadian races thus far. Can you imagine what's going to be like in Montreal when we go there to the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve on August 24th? Got to be a tremendous incentive in Paul's mind to sweep all 3 Canadian races on the schedule.
Well, going into Toronto, they wanted to win a Canadian race for players, but after that win there, they immediately raised their expectations and said, we want to go for the sweep.
Bruno Junqueira goes by Ryan Hunter-Reay.
Now, the other thing that's happening right now is Bourdais has really got to be on pace if he has any hope to get up and get by Junqueira. He needs to be running hard. Last lap was almost the same pace as Junqueira. The only benefit that he's going to have, Bourdais is going to be in a situation where he's going to stay out 2 laps longer, which means Junqueira, that time it takes him to get those tires up and working, that could cost him that second position.
And remember how close they were when Bourdais came out of the pits. Bruno ran a great stint there. That entire stint, he built the gap up to 3 points.
We want you to pit this lap plus 16.
3.6 seconds over Bourdais in spite of Bourdais' best efforts to close it down. He knows he needs to be close to capitalize on that advantage, but Bruno's doing everything he can to hold on to second.
Several drivers in position for their best finishes of the year. Mario Haberfeld's only 1 spot off his best of 4th. Rodolfo Levine is 6th. Ryan Hunter-Reay is 7th.
The way the traffic's falling like right now for Junqueira, he actually got caught up there and was slowed down about 2 seconds, which is going to play well for Bourdais, but certainly not for Junqueira, especially since they're coming in this lap.
Bourdais has to get by the same traffic on his demon laps.
Potentially. Yeah, that's right. He'll be about 3 seconds back on those of that lap.
On board with Paul Tracy, he'll peel off for the pit lane. Derek Daly is there.
Okay, Paul, I want you to watch your speed in the pit lane. Watch your speed in the pit lane. You've got an open pit ahead of you. You You've nobody to come around. Look for Steve waving. This will be a reasonably quick stop. It's going to be a pretty quick stop. I need you to hold on to the steering wheel. Right underneath Steve's hand, right on the marks.
Those reassuring words again from Neil McWright. Paul is in good condition physically, refuses to take the grip. Remember, tire pressures are increased. Here he goes. Looks good. Calvin.
Well, meanwhile, Bruno Junqueira comes in, and again, we expect once the tire change is done, the fuel should be disconnected. They only got to go 10 more laps. Good set of Bridgestone tires. Fuel is off. Clean stuff for Bruno. Lots of wreck this time once again. And Sebastian Bourdais, his teammate, is now setting up. This will be critical as to how those two meet, with Bourdais getting one more hot lap.
Bourdais being held up behind Tracy on cold tires. This is a tough situation because Bourdais has to get by if he has a hope at second, but he's also cognizant of the fact that this is the race leader. That's quite respectful of Sebastian. I mean, you would understand if he wanted to force his way by here.
Bourdais comes into the weekend 5th in the championship. The man immediately ahead of him by just 2 points in the title chase is Patrick Carpentier, who is out of the race and will not score. So Bourdais will move up to at least 4th in the championship with a good finish here. Calvin Fish awaits him.
Pulling on the lights, Brandon.
Here the radio communication. Bourdais comes in, and look at the mismatched set of tires. He's got a brand new left front Bridgestone to go on with 3 scrubs, and this will be critical if he'll have too much understeer, trying to get this tire up to temperature and pressure.
And being stuck behind Tracy, I think probably
Pressure is the best deal with Bruno.
Didn't quite catch what Craig Hampson was telling his man there. The Newman Haas team has 3 victories and 6 total podiums here in Vancouver, and they could have 2 more podium finishes today. We'll be back with more in just a moment. Stay with us. By just over 28 seconds as Jimmy Vasser's car gets pulled away with what we understand to be gearbox problems. Let's get to Derek Daly.
Jimmy, the rate of attrition is pretty high here. You've been on the podium twice before, but today just a struggle.
Yeah, you know, we had one time on a set of tires. I don't know what they were like, but it took 10 laps to come in. Gus, they had some strange pickup on it or something, and we went way back and just started having a good pace, you know, for what we have with the Reynard, and then we lost 3rd gear. And, you know, it's bumpy. You're shifting over the bumps a lot of places, and gearbox is a common problem here, and got us today.
Thanks, Jimmy. Spare a thought, though, for Jimmy. He's had a good weekend. He spent most of his time on a yacht called Flipper. And I know, TK, you've enjoyed the yacht also.
I spent a little time, about 5 hours on Flipper yesterday afternoon. And one of Jimmy's friends from Vegas, sorry, Bob, it's about 105 footer. If we get the aerial shot, I'll show you which one it is. There's the Flipper. Jimmy
You were on that boat? Where is the love?
Just check it out, make sure it was safe. But there are Johnny Fever, who is one of Jimmy's friends from Vegas, who is one of the ultimate VIP hosts in Vegas, has 30 girls here with Jimmy Vasser fan club shirts on. And so Jimmy told me he was going to head for the flip if he was out early.
Yeah, see if I throw to you next time you're in the pits. Bruno Junqueira making his way along as the laps begin to run out. 4 to go in the Champ Car Grand Prix of Vancouver. What is looking like a 2-3, a pair of podium finishes for Newman Haas Racing. Bruno Junqueira is flying, 62.3 that time around. Nearly a full second faster than race leader Paul Tracy. Now on board with Sebastian Bourdais, about a half second slower than his teammate on that last lap.
And we saw how much that hurt Bourdais being trapped behind Tracy on his in lap. And again, it was a really respectful move. He effectively gave up his chase for second spot because he didn't want to take a risk getting by Paul Tracy.
Bourdais running about 13 seconds behind his teammate. There's Michel Jourdain Jr., who had by far his best qualifying performance ever here on the streets of Vancouver. Qualified 4th. Before that, he hadn't been any higher than 15th on the grid. He'll be rewarded with a 4th place finish, his 2nd straight here in the Grand Prix of Vancouver. Jourdain came into the weekend 3rd in the championship. He will stay there. There is Darren Manning in 5th position. A terrific run, and the best by a Reynard in the field. Driving the RAC Air China car for Walker Racing. If you were with us for our pre-race show, we spent some time with Darren Manning at his crib in Indianapolis. He is a great personality. Darren Manning in line for his season and therefore career best finish in 5th place, being a rookie. Same for Rodolfo Levine back in 8th.
Ryan Hunter-Reay in 6th as well.
Yeah, good run for Ryan Hunter-Reay.
Levine was putting that career best in jeopardy when he was penalized for blocking. He flipped J.D. Wilbur the bird when he went under start-finish line. In NASCAR, they have a way of dealing with that. They say, we knew you were trying to tell us something, but we couldn't understand, so we brought you in so you could explain it.
That's right. Take your time.
It still took us a while to understand, so it took 3 laps.
4 times this race has been won from pole by Michael Andretti twice, Dario Franchitti once, and Juan Pablo Montoya once. And the white flag there is a special one this weekend. It is a City of Vancouver Olympic bid flag. About 3 weeks ago, they were successful in that bid, and the 2010 Olympic Winter Games will be coming to Vancouver. And if you've never been to this great city, put it on your schedule. An absolutely fabulous place to visit, with the soaring coastal range across the harbor, the cruise ships and float planes flying in and out, fabulous restaurants, a very cool place to visit. There is Vivian, Paul Tracy's mom, who promised he would win this race just as she did 2 weeks ago. She wrote the check and her son cashed it on both occasions. This will be the 2nd win for Players Forsyth Racing on Canadian soil. 19th career win for the team. Number 24 in Paul Tracy's glittering career. And that long elusive first championship cannot be far away.
Your mom says don't screw up the donuts.
Don't screw up the donuts.
LC off for the donuts.
Victory for Paul Tracy. Zanardi, who invented the maneuver, would be proud of that little number.
The key is dialing all the brake bias to the front and using that front wheel as a pivot. Alex is the guy who figured that out.
He is also the first Canadian driver to win back-to-back on home soil. As he completes his victory lap, we'll take a break and return to hear from him. What a weekend for Paul Tracy. Controversy, angry words, but a promise to win, and then fulfilling it. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the streets of Concord Pacific Place in Vancouver, British Columbia, as Paul Tracy has pulled his Players Forsyth Lola Ford into victory lane. His 5th win of the season matches his best career win total in a single campaign. He won 5 for Penske Racing. And it also, with his 24th career win, Paul Tracy ties Bobby Rahal, a 3-time series champion, for 4th on CART's all-time win list. But the postscript with Paul Tracy is always, he hasn't won that first championship yet. He has never had a better opportunity than he does right now. Unofficially, Bruno Junqueira finishes 2nd, Sebastian Bourdais in 3rd. So Junqueira 2nd in the championship, but once again, losing a little bit of ground. Now unofficially 20 points behind Tracy for the championship.
It's hard to come back from this. I mean, the points gap isn't that great. It's close to a full win, but psychological blow delivered by these two dominant wins. Paul said before Laguna Seca, Laguna and Portland are not great tracks for me. I just want to get through these guys. He was coming off the bad European swing. But when we get back to some of the tracks that I like, he says, look out. And man, he has really dropped the hammer. It's really hard. There's only a week between now and the next race, but another good track for Paul Tracy. Also good for Bruno. But psychologically, Bruno somehow has to gather up a big result to stop this momentum.
Well, we allow our Canadian colleagues first access to their countryman, Paul Tracy. Let's hear from Bruno Junqueira with Calvin Fish.
10th time in the top 5, Bob, this season. But Bruno, talk about the start initially. You did what we all thought you needed to do to be aggressive. You made that move, and then CART made the call.
Yeah, I mean, I did a good start and brake really late going to turn 1. Outside where it's clean and past Tracy, and I don't know. Early on I had a lock in the right front, then I was just driving around, and when I felt that my tires were not flat spot anymore, I tried to push and start to open a gap for Tracy. And when I was opening a gap after 3 or 4 laps, pushing very hard, they told me I couldn't believe, and I lost completely concentration and came back to 4th. And the Pacific Cat team did a great job on the pit stops. The car was handled very well, and I started to go forward, passing people on the track, on the pits, and finish second. I'm quite glad to finish that. Well, a shame, but let's keep pushing Tracy.
Have to keep looking at the big picture. He recovered well after that mistake in the pit stop. Meanwhile, let's get over Double D with our victor today.
Well, you can imagine here, the players' team. There's hugs all around for Paul Tracy. Paul, there was times of great emotion. There was anger this weekend, but not many people believed you could dominate like you did 2 weeks ago in Toronto, but you did it again.
Yeah, it's an awesome car. I mean, team players gave me a great car both weeks. You know, the Bridgestones, I was able to run hard on them. We had to sit behind Junqueira at the beginning because he jumped the start, but then they made the right decision and reversed us. And once I got in front, I was able to just pull away 6 seconds in like 5 laps. And then from there, we had it under control.
Hang on, Mom wants a hug here. Let Mom in first before I go on here. Paul, the start, there was some controversy about the start. Bruno got the jump. Did you believe it was a legal start?
No, it wasn't, because the start cones are way down there, and I pulled up to line up, and then he just came out of the corner flat out and went by me, you know, a gear higher, about 30, 40 miles an hour faster than me. So, I mean, he had to go at it and had to try, and they overturned it on it. So, you know, once I got in front, I was able to stay right on his gearbox. Once we got in front and he pulled around and let me by, I was able to just pull away from him easily.
Can you believe Mom Viv here makes 2 predictions that you would win 2 in a row in Canada? What's next?
I'm changing my name to Miss Cleo.
There you go, boys. A great time of celebration here with the Tracys. Calvin?
Well, Sebastian Bourdais, a tremendous recovery, getting back on the podium, debriefing with his car owners here. Paul Newman, Carl Haas, tell us about your run today. Spectacular.
Yeah, I think again we've been in big difficulties after the start. I take a very good jump, and I attacked Bobby, who took a really bad jump. Then I was half of the car at the inside. He didn't see me, and we were 3 at the apex of the turn 1. Then I think it's a race incident. I saw that he was waving his hands, but I mean, I was inside. Then, you know, I think I have nothing to assume on this thing. And after we were dead last, and the team did a great strategy. Again, this Lily crew did a fantastic job. There's nothing to add. I think it's just another podium.
Talk about at the end there, 1 stop to go. It looked like you may be able to leapfrog Bruno, and then you came up behind PT on cold tires. Very respectful with him on cold tires, not to make an aggressive move there.
Oh, I think PT is able to have a very wide car. Then I didn't want to take any risk. I think it was just stupid. I got traffic, and I didn't manage it as well as Bruno. Then I was a bit too far to expect anything. And I was not really tempted to try something on my teammate, and then it was a pretty good result.
All right, Sebastian, congratulations. Another podium finish, and what a difference 6 months makes. Remember back in the first 2 races when he fell back early, really panicked a little bit. Now he's got a lot more maturity and knows the rules, Bob.
The difference between a rookie and a veteran, and Sebastian Bourdais is quickly earning his veteran stripes. Here's a look at the championship. Bruno Junqueira now 20 points behind Paul Tracy. Michel Jourdain drops to 36 points out. Sebastian Bourdais 61 points behind with 8 races remaining this season, beginning next weekend at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. We'll take another break and be back with more of the post-race festivities from Vancouver.
Down here with Darren Manning, a great result, top 5 finish for you, Darren, today. Talk about the race.
Yeah, that was a real battle. You still got the old donuts on the side of the car there from hitting Adrian, unfortunately. I broke my wing in that incident, and we had to really keep going with a broken wing until our pit window opened. 30 laps to go. We managed to do it, but the wing was dragging against the tyre. I don't know how it survived, really. And then the guys did a great job in that last pit stop. They changed the front wing in about 15 seconds, so and all 4 tyres and fuel to finish me off the race. And then eventually, you know, battled away, chucked up to 5th place.
Talking to Derek Walker last week when you were in England, he said the last couple of tenths could come from shaving these sideburns here. See, they're still on there.
That's the full English style, you see. I've got to keep the image up like the shoes, you see.
All right, mate. Party tonight?
Absolutely. Cheers, Carl. You coming?
Yeah, we'll be there. Cheers, mate.
At 5th place is the best finish ever for Darren Manning on a street or road circuit. He was 4th on the oval track in Milwaukee. There is the podium. Paul Tracy in the middle, Sebastian Bourdais on the left, Bruno Junqueira on the right. And receiving the trophy here in the hometown of late Greg Moore, Paul Tracy. Always an emotional moment when drivers, particularly Canadian drivers, take the podium here in Vancouver, since Greg Moore passed away back in 1999.
The party they mentioned is not just any party. It's the party that was started by Greg Moore. He used to throw a party for all of his driving friends on Sunday night, and after Greg's passing, his buddies have taken it up, and they really go off on Sunday night. It's really what started the party, the Sunday night parties on the circuit. And it's tonight. Al Robbie, Greg's best friend, is the guy that heads it up, and he told me to pump it on the air. At Richards on Richards is where the bash will be happening tonight.
I guess if we go, that qualifies as research. As the podium ceremonies continue, let's go to Derek Daly.
With Ryan Hunter-Reay here, who has now had 4 consecutive races in the points. This is by far your best day. This is a tough racetrack to finish, and to have your best finish ever is pretty pleasing for you.
It is. You know, there was a bunch of problems there at the beginning of the race. I just kept my nose clean, drove a really hard race. Quite a few guys out there were misbehaving on the blocking stuff, and that's just not right at all. I give courtesy to other drivers. They should give it back. We're racing hard out there, and anyway, I kept my nose clean. Kept it hard in there, and Manning was pretty quick. We had a duel out there to the end, and we just I just couldn't keep the car in a straight line too long. I mean, it was just low grip. So I'm happy here to get 6th for American Spirit. You know, we've been finishing in the points a lot. We'll work on it. We're working on it as a team. We'll be there.
Sure. Well done.
Thanks.
Career best finish for Ryan Hunter-Reay. And now it's anthem time again for Paul Tracy. I can honestly say that's the best singing I've ever heard from a Royal Canadian Mounted Police person. We'll be back to Vancouver.
Mario, great battle out there with Darren Manning all day long, and you looked like you're going to be the top right now, but then problems at the end. What happened?
Yeah, we were doing pretty well. I think my engineer, Andy, did a great job for the race. We were by far the quickest Rainer after the second pit stop. We had passed Manning. We were, I think, a lap in front of him and pulling away, but suddenly I lost 3rd and 2nd gear. So it was pretty hard because here most of the corners are 3rd gears. We had to do all of them in 4th gear, and then we had to choose either between 4th and 2nd on 1st, depending which gear would go in. But overall, I think we did all right, and we had a good car. We were unlucky that the box broke, but lucky to still finish.
It has to be brutal, the pace of these races these days, and trying to hold on the steering wheel with one hand and hold it in gear with the other. Good job it happened towards the end, I guess.
Yeah, it was good, but unfortunately it was still like 30 laps to go. I would be happier if it was like 5 or so. But as you said, some corners I had to go in 4th gear instead of 3rd, then hold with one hand 3rd and steer with only the other hand, keep holding 3rd. But, I mean, we're just trying as hard as we could, and at least we finished.
All right, mate, well, a great performance out there today, but another great performance come from one of the other Reynard runners. He's with Derek Daly.
Indeed, Calvin. Rodolfo Levine for Walker Racing. You had a very good day. This is your best ever finish, 9th in Germany, being your best before this. A great experience today for you.
Oh yeah, it was a very tough race. Some incidents at the beginning. After a very tough weekend, we were struggling too much at the beginning of the weekend. Finally, we got an 8th place, and it's a shame about the penalty they did to me. I really wasn't blocking hard anybody. But well.
Tell me about that penalty, Rodolfo. Is it difficult to get out of the way fast enough in racing conditions?
Well, the thing is that the guy behind wasn't close enough, to make the pass right away. So I was just waiting for the top guy to get much more closer and then just let him by one of the braking zones. But plus, if you just pull away, and wave him by, I mean, you are fighting position also against the 9th or 10th or 7th place, so you can lose 1 or 2 positions just by letting the leaders go by just like that,
Tommy Kendall's having a party on the Flipper yacht tonight. Do you have any Corona you could maybe slide over there for him?
Of course, I have how many you want? Lots of Coronas.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
That's my kind of racing driver. Meanwhile, the champagne ceremony is about to begin. Final margin of victory, Paul Tracy over Bruno Junqueira, 17.82 seconds. There were 4 cars on the lead lap at the end. Tracy, Junqueira, Bourdais, and Michel Jourdain. And 9 cars officially out of the race. So you might say we made our quota. That's been the average for the last 7 runnings of the Champ Car Grand Prix of Vancouver. We'll be back with more in just a moment. Welcome back to a beautiful summer afternoon in Vancouver, British Columbia, as the 14th running of the Champ Car Grand Prix of Vancouver is now complete. There is the podium. Let's get final thoughts from Derek Daly.
Did anybody really believe that Paul Tracy, in the midst of turmoil, of anger, of headlines to say that he was fighting with everybody, could be so mistake-free at Toronto and 2 weeks later here? I'm not sure they did. What does Newman Haas think? What does Junqueira think when he got the lead and he still had to give it back to Paul Tracy? I don't know, but Paul Tracy, after 13 years in this business, is absolutely on the top of his game, physically, mentally, and players have given him the car to do the business. If he doesn't get derailed, which I don't think he will, he could well win his first ever championship. Calvin?
Here with Michel Jourdain finishing 4th today. How do you get Tracy back down underneath you? He's on a roll right now. Mid-season, is it hard to regroup to find the edge?
Well, he's been so fast the last couple of races, So I guess we just have to do the best we can, and that's what we've been trying to do the last couple of races. Hopefully we can improve a little bit the next, from now on till the end of the year, but he's going to be really tough to beat.
And Michel had to make a visit to medical here. Take a look at his left hand. Blisters there. He's certainly trying out there, but today it was not enough to catch PT and that player's team. Bob?
Wow. Here's a look at the final results. Tommy Kendall, as we look at these, what were your final thoughts on the day?
Well, Paul Tracy really has, these have been pivotal races for him, and Derek summed it up pretty well in terms of everything that's going on around it. But with these last 2 races, he has elevated himself up to another echelon. He's not on par with a Gretzky or Lemieux yet, but he has elevated himself into the level of great Canadian sportsmen. And it'll be interesting to see how this continues to evolve over the season. But I think he's feeling a lot of love from players, and that's a big difference from years past.
Going to be a great race right down to the finale at California Speedway in Fontana. Don't forget, the next race, round 12 of the Bridgestone Presents the Champ Car World Series powered by Ford, will be the Mario Andretti Grand Prix at Road America, featuring 12.5 hours of programming on HDNet. If you don't know where to find HDNet, go on CART.com for locations in your area. Coverage begins Friday, August 1st. The race is August 3rd. Then round 13 will be back on Speed Channel. The Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio. Saturday, August 9th, live qualifying. Sunday, August 10th, the race, also live, both at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for joining us for round 11, the Champ Car Grand Prix of Vancouver. Another great victory for Paul Tracy. For Tommy Kendall, Scott Pruitt, Derek Daly, and Calvin Fish, I'm Bob Varsha. So long, everyone.